Good afternoon again. You may have noticed that we've done 2 videos on the subject of acceptance. And before we leave it, I'd like to offer you a little bit more. Now, I've been fortunate in my life to have to work actually for many years with sheep and to have had quite a lot to do with donkeys. Now, both animals, sheep and donkeys, or rather, I always rather don't like to hear of donkeys called asses, but usually they're referred to as asses in the Bible. Anyway, they're very often mentioned in the Bible, and I wonder why. Now, as a farmer, of course, I know a lot about sheep, and I've also always been very impressed by the fact that so many of the old saints and seers, the prophets, started life as shepherds. In fact, Jesus himself was brought up surrounded by sheep. Now, this is not without significance, because sheep are very accepting creatures. You've only just got to observe them in the changing weather, come sunshine or the blizzards. They just lie there. They get on with the job of eating and just doing what they do. And the Lord provides them with a lovely warm fleece to keep them sheltered, so that they're dry, whatever the weather, and so they survive outdoors in all conditions. And one of the phrases in Scripture is, like a sheep to the slaughter. For they're even right up to the time of the knife. The sheep is unprotesting, is very accepting. It just seems to, however unpleasant the circumstances, or being sold in a market, for example, they just stand there patiently. They don't complain. Accepting creatures. And a donkey is even more so. Those of you that have travelled in countries where they're much used will see they're often laden with the most enormous burdens with little protection for their backbones. I remember as a young farmer in South America being so upset by the number of sores they'd have on their backs from carrying uncomfortable firewood or ploughs or something on their unprotected backbones and rubbing into a saw, and I did all I could to alleviate this. But anyway, there they are. They just patiently just do what they're told and bear their burdens. And historically, the most interesting thing of all is that when Jesus came into Jerusalem on his day of triumph, how do you think he travelled? Was he borne on the shoulders of his admirers? No, he was carried on a donkey. The most humble and accepting of creatures. And you know, ever since that time, every donkey, you look for yourself, every donkey in the world bears a cross on its back. An extraordinary fact, whether you believe it's associated with bearing Jesus on his great day or not, there it is. The evidence before your eyes for those that want to believe it. Now then, how many self-righteous people would Jesus have chosen to carry him on his final journey? Why did he carry a dumb, beast of burden, and the most accepting of all beasts of burden to carry him. Now, dear friends, there's a lesson in this. For those of you that would be holy, those of you that want to find God, those of you that aspire in any way to spiritual enlightenment, take heed of what I say and learn from sheep and from donkeys, and you won't go far wrong. I speak in all seriousness. The world is full of vain glory. Of course, human vain glory. Nature, thank God, is free of it. And the whole world of spiritual endeavor is absolutely pervaded with pride and vain glory. So go gently and keep coming back to the humble examples of sheep and donkeys. And if you don't have access to these dear creatures, I'm going to tell you a little rhyme that you'll find in many garden centres, and which is also well worth bearing in mind, especially on a day like this. Here we go. The kiss of the sun for pardon. The song of the birds for mirth. You are nearer God's heart in a garden than anywhere else on earth. Now I get many questions from people who say, should I go to church, or what do I think of the church or of religions and things like that? And I very often come back to this little verse. Shall I say it again? The kiss of the sun for pardon. Now, my dears, pardon is forgiveness, isn't it? Now, those of you that are screwed up with guilt and failure and all sorts of personal inadequacy, just consider how the sun just shines on you all the same. The sun shines on equally on the good and the bad, without judgment. So take comfort. Let the sun kiss you and feel its forgiveness. The kiss of the sun for pardon, the song of the birds for mirth. You are nearer God's heart in a garden than anywhere else on earth. And finally, before I end, there's another question, I think from another young man, who asks about reincarnation. Now, dears, I'm going to just look at that young man. I'm going to look into his eyes, and I'm going to ask him to look at mine. And we're just going to be silent. Can you hear the river running just beside me? And hear the hum of the insects? A few birds in the background. The wind in the grass. to stop because here come some walkers. They want to come past us.
You've got right of way, buddy.
Well, if it's working, I'm not going to spoil it.
You don't spoil it, my dear.
Let the party go past. Not at all. Enjoy the walk.
I am doing lovely, Darren.
I hope you've got some refreshment on you.
Never equipped.
Huh. Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Right. Well, that's it, is it? All right, well. Oh, I didn't really finish, no, I sort of missed out on my main point. Well, maybe I can... You see, when we're attentive like this, just listening, just present, we are humble, aren't we? Because we're not thrusting this busy little ego, I, me, mine, forward. In fact, it's just dropped out of the picture, hasn't it? Humility. And in that, it's totally accepting. Like when those walkers came by, they don't interrupt anything, do they? So it is acceptance, humility, and there's no barrier left between God and you. There's simply no impediment at all, is there? I don't even need to say God bless you because it's so evident. So, until the next time, bye-bye.